Hello, welcome back to the beautiful Boise State Esports Arena where you are watching our coverage of NECC Overwatch, Collegiate Overwatch, I should say. And we got quite the start for us here. We have week one, day one of, like I said before, of NECC. And starting out pretty strong. Going to be going against IVC. Once again, like I said, beautiful little Boise State arena we got going on. And you will notice I might not have an actual human being with me on the desk here tonight, but nonetheless, I am joined by the one and only Rich Rad to call all the action with me tonight. How are we doing?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. It's always a pleasure to be here on the virtual desk, for me at least, with you being at the real desk for Boise State and being a part of all of this amazing esports action that we've got going, especially with the NECC Star League just starting off for this week one.
Oh, yeah, like I said, week one, day one. In your opinion, in your mindset, there's an obviously advantage to starting off strong here, but what exactly do you think the Boise State players need to do to sort of take advantage to the start and the almost the zero momentum they have to what carries on after this game?
I mean, one of the biggest things is making that early advantage when it comes to a 7-week round-robin stage to try and enter in for that #1 seed spot entering into the playoffs for that mid-April season is something that's really, really formidable. It sets the tone for the rest of these rounds. It also gives you a little bit of wiggle room when you talk about competitive play over the course of these weeks, especially since we do have a lot of changes. Patch notes have come through, hog changes, Ramatra being now entered into competition due to it being that series of weeks after its release. So now we can see it going into this new year. So there's a plethora of things that help you as you network through these chain of weeks that we have ahead of us.
And with Boise State having won, actually, this was really big last semester, of having won the NECC Collegiate Tournament last semester round, but that was a really big upset for Boise State as well. They weren't heavily contended to win it all, but nevertheless they did. And I feel like I really do agree with you. They're starting out strong, and you know they're the defenders of this title now. They really have to show up here, and we know for certain there are some very strong and very capable teams this time around in the tournament.
I mean, not even just because of what you've already historically done, but we have to look at a lot of the roster that comes from Boise State.
Yeah.
Several of these individuals we've seen when they're going through contenders specifically. We've seen them from that A and B side sector, also even in potentially the run it back collegiate as a whole. There's a variety of other places that we've seen a lot of these names. Matt Merck, Clear. There's a significant number of others. Goblin is another that we've seen a lot of work with. So these names should not be so unheard of, especially because we're on the Boise broadcast. But when we talk about the larger ecosystem in collegiate and tier 2, these names are known, especially when they play not only when it comes to Boise State, but also when you look at some of those teams like NECC and a few others throughout that tier 2 scene.
Oh yeah, definitely but a lot of names that come to it and a lot to stand with it. But going and taking a look, and we actually do have a little bit of announcement for it tonight. The ABC Collegiate Championship Series was just announced, and that is actually a bigger prize pool this time around, and it is running through February through April as well. Then, you know, obviously as we're bringing this up, this means we were in this this tournament, this championship tournament, and ABC is the really big name to Overwatch. I mean, it's the one, it's the tournament that really, you know, it's the big one. It's the one that takes all the cake if there's one you want to really have your name attributed to. So, you know, and once again, if I'm not mistaken, we also had a pretty good running in ABC last semester as well, and I imagine this team more than anything wants to win as many titles as they possibly can. They have NECC. It'd be amazing if they take ECAC, and on top of that, if you frosting on the cake, take ABC. It's only week one. It's ambitious, but why not?
I mean, you have to be ambitious, and it's
Yeah.
all in regards to what you do for preparation. When you look at historically, most recently when it came to the collegiate homecoming, Boise State being within that top portion of the 17 to 32 that were in the overall brackets. The biggest question is going into that is how it's going to fend off against the back-to-back championship winner of Maryville, which again, something that we get to see, and being able to promote that the registration is open, making sure that we have so many universities across this country being able to focus and look towards trying to take that #1 spot. And with Boise State, as you mentioned, their history, their consistency, and where they look to place themselves has always been something to keep an eye out for, and just the players as a whole, like I mentioned, in just the tier 2 sphere.
Yeah, and it's a sphere that nevertheless is so dominated, and I do like the point they bring up Maryville as well. Just if you don't even know Overwatch in a very deep scale, even just the name Maryville University in terms of esports in Overwatch by itself is a very prolific university to kind of look at and take advantage of in terms of what's kind of the more or less golden standard of moving forward of how players sort of operate. And the other thing I kind of want to bring up actually is I remember when Overwatch 2 came out last semester, it was like the really big talk of everything. How are players going to transition the 6 stack to the 5 stack? But I still feel like a lot of the times it doesn't feel like much of a transition for these players, at least looking at it from an outside perspective visually. And I do want to get your sort of 2 cents on it, because I noticed you brought up the patch notes, and kind of diving into that of what changes now, especially with Ramacha now, the competitive pool and used in these tournaments, what kind of impact that going to play.
I mean, even just from looking at something most recently, there was the MAC Esports tournament that was just happening last week that I was a part of, seeing a little bit of integration when it came to Ramatra, and also just this wide variety of compositional opportunity. We saw Faro, we saw Cassidy, we saw Devo, we saw a lot of things waver away from just, what we've traditionally seen. Lots of Russian brawl when it comes to Orisa. So there's a plethora of things, and it's actually really refreshing when we look at what it's once been, where when we look at the Overwatch League Grand Finals and just that entire segment of competitive play, there was so much sojourn. Everything relied on the shoulders of a one-shot, one opportunity pick that would completely change the trajectory of a fight. But we've kind of shied away from that ever since those, nerfs came in. But to also tie back to your question of going from the 6 to 5 players, a lot have now been able to have time to adapt into this. Still those leaps and bounds of understanding that you only have that main tank to work with. But with this longevity that we've had, so much competitive play, especially Overwatch League being able to show what type of talent can perform at that level, has really helped a lot of this tier 2 understand, digest, and evaluate the tactics they want to bring into games like this.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it wasn't as surprising as it was in the beginning, and there's a lot more expectations I feel around it. It's not so much a change, just off the rip, kind of going into Legion Tower on control for our first map rotation point. We did see the Ramacha there, and we see it on both sides. So I feel like we kind of knew that was going to happen when we kind of talked about it in the beginning.
And especially when you're starting out week 1, you want to test the waters with this, because there's a lot of value that can be brought into this. The significant amount of damage that it can just bring out in its base form before even going into Nemesis, which you can already see active, is substantial. And with this Nemesis v Nemesis form pushing out towards this exterior, giving an opportunity to take down the support play, can't really ride wall out of there to escape that incoming damage. This is going to allow Boise State to completely pincer this remaining few of Irvine Valley and be able to take this point shortly after, even though you have gone in favor of this Irvine squad.
Yeah, definitely starting out strong. The thing that sort of surprised me with Rachas is the survivability potential that you have. And, even just as a solo tank, just the amount of damage you can take and the armor buff that you get from switching to from a normal mode to Nemesis mode is really big. And I'm really excited to see how these players take full advantage of it, or what comes out from using these players in strategy.
The biggest thing is the ebb and flow with it, because you have that recovery mechanism with the Nemesis form. Also, when you're pairing it with Chosen on this Kiriko, there is so much maintenance that you can have with it. Not only the heal, but also the Suzu, which you see right there, continuing to keep Clear topped up, making sure that they are doing everything imaginable. And that's the other dynamic of this as well. Matt Merck, typically being the tank role right now, is opting to go onto this Tracer, harassing it at the back. Sound barrier given in by Bagel, which is a consistency from this Lucio play, overwhelming any sort of aggression that comes in from Irvine Valley. They do opt to go for the Annihilation onto the point, forcing back multiples, but that's going to be a massive shot coming in from Plato on the back line, getting a 2-piece with the overclock.
And Plato's absolutely going to be an absolute demonic force to deal with, especially on this. Wow, the name is blanking to me right now. This has been happening to me so often.
For the Ramatra, you mean?
Or for Plato's DPS. I am completely blanking on it. Sojourn, yes.
Totally fine.
Yes.
It can be such a big player when it comes to the composition, and even also the supportal combat that we're seeing. Chosen getting another shutdown onto the support line, following up by Clear. If they can continue to dominate the supports like this, there's no way Irvine can get back into this.
Ooh, that Genji just barely escaping the push out down. Kind of backed up. They were very close to taking the point, but it got quickly denied. And I feel like that was solely just because Clear and Chosen were just able to stay on point and just be absolute menaces and give their team enough time to just keep kind of pushing forward back on the site and retake it.
And with
a lot of ults
Kitsune Rush active, that's going to give a momentum shift here for Irvine Valley, especially when you have a great Dragon Blade and dash reset coming in here from Harry, able to completely turn it on its head. But again, you have to look at what was contributed into this. There was still only the 2 ultimates. They managed to keep the pulse bomb and also the sound barrier for Irvine to look for a more long run counter engagement, because Boise State has ultimates coming online.
Yeah, you have Clear and Plato are those two that I'm really looking at for, and you also have Chosen's ultimate that's going to be big going into this as well.
Matt Merck getting that early pickup onto the support makes this extremely challenging for Irvine to sustain through it. You only really have that one player to manage, as there is a great return, though, despite them swapping it over. Boise State has the advantage. Irvine rounding this inner corner, making sure that they can remove Clear. It is the 99 into the overtime, so there will be a chance for Boise to get back into this. Attempt after attempt to get onto the point. Matt Merck is actually still sustaining onto the point, and with this swiftness coming back in from the Sojourn on Plato, it's giving a recovery opportunity, able to shut down the few and pull this out of nowhere. And the best part of this that I really love is we've seen so historically from Matt Merck this wrecking ball, this backline harassment, this heavy mobility, this just dominant force, and now looking to try and waver that into this tracer type of same high mobility, high impact flanking maneuver. It's such a it's like an added value here that you're getting while leaving Clear on this Ramatra.
Yeah, that was the big question for me when we made that transition. You know, it's such a heavy topic to be on, but really discussing sort of in my head of, wow, like Matt Merck was this really big, like, you know, secondary tank role as being, you know, this being the ball, the hamster, and really just causing a lot of chaos where a lot of players would go in their switch. And it seems like, you know, at least from my perspective as well, Boise State has found a way around that to still be very versatile and deadly no matter what kind of the role you're in.
And even being able to see Clear before they were brought into Boise State, having a very formidable play style. This is really, I think, starting to fit the way that they like to engage these fights. You already have the Nemesis out. Again, those melee, consistent punches onto the opponents as they're close by. Another pickup as well. Clear is just having a field day at this point in conjunction with the fact that Bagel's able to give them this heavy movement from the Lucio, getting them close in proximity, able to get those executions and completely deny Cajun from finding any frontline pressure to counteract Clear.
If it was Pig winning the first fight, going to get the point as well. IBC was able to do that this last round. Didn't prove out too fruitful for them in the beginning, however, though. Boise State, the stable match control, this is definitely a map that you can create a really heavy choke point that can be really difficult to overcome if you don't get the picks necessary to do so. But I do notice Boise State, and really in general, the Ramachas are really aggressive. Nemesis form almost isn't saved. It's almost used as a tool to create an opening in their front line.
And that's the interesting part of this. They've even had an adjustment now where they're having the Cassidy be brought into the composition to try and counteract this, but with Clear playing as aggressive as you mentioned, there's no way for Irvine to recover from it. And the fact that they're not able to control this tempo and this aggression that's coming through, Boise State is consistently able to play the same playbook over and over and over again. And if for whatever reason you have Clear, like in that instance, separated away from the team, not directly correlated to where their positioning is taking the high ground, that's when both Plato and Matt Merck are going to bring value into this. And I'm also really surprised to see this far play, especially when it's going to be having to go into the face of the Cassidy, which really hasn't brought any value.
Yeah, not yet. I feel like the Cassidy's only been in for one fight now, so I feel like they haven't been able to really prove if they're gonna provide any value. But you also see that Matt Merck on the Pharah there, really taking advantage of this super open point. So push themselves to the choke point. They're coming up the Ramatra ult. The only ult they got in there. This
from Cajun could do work, but Clear is going to respond in kind, doing the same thing. And the hard part is that the Kiriko ultimate, the Kitsune rush for Boise State, will be able to overwhelm that annihilation and deny any recontention by Cajun as we reach this last 15%, and Irvine have to get back swiftly.
Might be very hard for them to do. This Lucio is going to try everything to get a touch on point, along with the Genji being brought out. Matt Merck gets a boop. Is there on the Kiriko as well? Will the Lucio get there in time on the last 2%? Doesn't look like it does. And
wow,
pops
Matt
out
Merck
B.
even committing the rocket barrage to try and deny it. This is just now trying to be insult to injury, salt in the wound. Can't quite land the rockets, but even though they don't deny the touch from the Lucio play, everyone else falls in suit.
Yeah.
Cajun even opting for a desperate play onto the Doomfist to try and have heavy mobility. You can hear the cheering in the back, knowing that they played dominantly on that first round of control and have for sure set the stage and the tone going into Irvine.
Yeah, this play of the game. This was pretty big, right here. The Dragon Blade did almost more of the work outside of the Dragon Blade than normal with a lot of the dash reset that was there. Boys State
That was
Esports
really
is
one of the
always
most. No, you're good. You're good.
yeah, my apologies. Boys State Esports is always looking for talented players, production and broadcast talent. Top talent from along with good grades and eligibility can earn scholarship as well. Sign up today by visiting boise.edu/esports for more information. And before I cut you off, what were you going on about?
I mean, the biggest thing with the Genji play, like you had mentioned, to piggyback off of it, is that was really the only moment that Irvine had any sort of control of the situation. They were able to couple that that ultimate with the rest of the positioning, able to get that clean takeover and gain that percentage back. But the hardest part is defensively. They're not able to really break what Boise State is able to do because there is this constant momentum forward. You mentioned Clear with that Ramatra aggression, never really allowing a foothold for Irvine to do anything competitively against them, and constantly dividing and separating the players, and also getting a lot of value on the support line that are left out into the open.
Yeah. Especially, I feel like it was almost a lot of pressure on the support line as well, because the support line tries to stick with the Ramatra and trying to be there to support, your main tank. But here comes this other Ramatra that just dives you, ignores the tank, and just goes for you purely. So I feel like they can be really frustrating and really annoying to feel like you can do anything when you just feel this constant target. And it's not like it's a backline DPS or a tracer or somebody diving you that you can pull back and support them. It's the tank and the entire team now on top of you. So that probably looks like a very frustrating thing to deal with, and just comes down to what it looks like is just like rumble after rumble, just like who ends up taking that, that advantageous of who got more picks during the push.
And the big dynamic now, granted, Control is always its own unique beast in and of itself, but when we look going into the next map, if there is going to be this repetition and usage of the Ramatra with Clear, keeping Matt Merck on this off DPS heavy mobile role or vertical role, which would be very reasonable because it was played so well and there hasn't really been anything to stifle that at the moment. If Irvine is going to look to opt for something that's going to be a little bit more of a shield shred, breaking that Ramatra shield, denying that type of aggression, if they're going to look to lean into it, they're going to be pummeled by significantly more damage. Whether that's going to be a Hans, whether that's going to be a Sojourn, these things that they have to start looking into. The Cassidy, of course, makes a lot of sense when you're trying to counteract against the Pharah, but again, that was a unique situation in a very encapsulated space, managing to hold those choke points, looking for that high ground doorway or potentially the hallway towards that initial choke point. So these different variables are something that Irvine is really going to have to understand to be able to counteract what Boise State has already been able to do at this first map.
And going into next, NECC is hybrid after Control, and it sounds like it's going to be Kings Row for the next map. Actually, yeah, you can see it right there. Ascent. Whoa!
Oh, we're jumping all over for that one.
Different game, but it might work. Who knows? I wonder how Ramatra to play on Ascent, but I feel like Kings Row, we're definitely still going to see the Ramatra there. I feel like being able to take advantage of this really, like, that first point cap is, you're almost going to have a Ramatra there, because I feel like Boise State is just going to tempo them and just dive right in with the Lucio boost in there, the speed boost, and just absolutely annihilate what backline is. And then from there, once your backline's gone, everything else is going to crumble. Honestly, that's what I feel like going into this Grim Rose is going to be the case.
Yeah, and the other dynamic of it, too, is when we take a look at the Ramatra play onto Kings Row, a very seasoned map for basically anybody, whether it's collegiate tier 2 or tier 1 play. It's a very comfortable map. There is that possibility of verticality once again here, where Matt could bring this Pharah to the field, where they have this architecture maneuver around these corners to peak and find this added value, and what we're going to have from Irvine to counteract against it, especially when we talk about seeing, is there going to be even a stray Widowmaker getting an early pick out the door? And that's something that we really have to lean into to understand. And I would not be surprised if we're going to have Boise State opting to go on the defense first here with their decision. Once again, kind of setting the stage, taking that lead, and being able to control the situation to influence more so of that morale or the lack thereof that they could instill over Irvine.
Yeah, I can definitely see that early pick and the verticality that you mentioned is a really important aspect, and something I feel like a lot of games sort of not so much neglect, but I feel like it's not not observed as an importance a lot of the times, or sort of that terminology, I guess, is it really describes sort of how important this can be, and don't really have the names right off the bat, so I wouldn't make any solid guesses as to what it is. But seeing the Orisa and the Ashe, well, the Mercy as well, looking for a little bit of pocket, I imagine, on the Ashe.
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest thing. You're going to most likely see this initial upfront damage, or if the Ashe wants to take a high ground angle towards that back position or even in the window, that's going to give a lot of value. And also it plays a little bit more formidably because you have some mobility to maneuver around with Cajun on this Orisa. So it's actually going to be Boise State on the attack first, it looks like. Well, it's Irvine on the defense here, drawing back Cajun, looking to try and withstand this upfront pressure by Clear on this Zarya, but already has a substantial amount of charge. There has been so much placed into those shields. It is an added DPS at this point. Matt Merck opting and flexing once again, showing the depth of hero pool, bringing out this Mei with the wall, dividing that choke point. 5 minutes and 50 seconds. They have blitzed to this point and have transitioned into the payload phase.
Mei does feel really strong on a lot of team comps that end up working up with it, and especially with the very competent Mei that ends up soloing out a lot of people and was deadly in that sense in Overwatch 1 as well, and maintains that deadliness in Overwatch 2. Even though you lose the full frozen ability, you still find your way to be so deadly with that. And
the
just
biggest
like that,
challenge right now is the biggest challenge is working through this choke point. It's a very difficult position to do and easily move through, but when you have the Mei, it creates a little bit of a wrinkle here, and they do get that initial wall by the bookstore to deny it. There's a pickup that comes through with the rail shot instantly by Plato, following through even further onto Cajun, despite the Valkyrie and also the res being contributed by Irvine to hopefully swap this around. A desperate res and a play to get this Orisa back online, but they are left alone and cannot outmatch this visceral pressure that's coming in from Boise.
And we see Clear on an almost, if that's not full charge, very close to being full charge. Just when you feed that much into the bubble, that Clear is going to be such a deadly, tank to deal with. It almost feels the same way as Ramacha's. Clear's going to have to get in your face to do the most damage and be the most effective. And it feels like this play comp they got going on is working out for them right now. We do see a little bit of switches going off the Orisa onto that Reinhardt. I believe that's the only switch as Bobby is committed as well.
There is a lot entered into this, and with the swaps, and I actually am really impressed at the control and communication aspect when it came into what they wanted to use for this. They knew that they had the grab to couple with that to make the snow globe, essentially, is what we used to call it, but that's also more with the Orisa. But regardless, the Blizzard able to couple with Clear's Graviton makes it now only 2 ultimates utilized. They've got 3 more to do. Plato, okay. That's interesting. Didn't see anything in the kill feed. I'm wondering. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is. The shot with the Widowmaker able to deny the overclock is a great way to try and counteract this momentum in the last final stages. But Chosen with the Kitsune Rush could be able to opt out and make it even more challenging here for Irvine to recover. And this is just looking dire.
Yeah, even with that opening pick on Plato, you still just see the BSU offense be so just almost desperate to get into their faces and just cause this absolute annihilation. And Cajun was not able to do much against it. Just got absolutely annihilated, even with the Kiriko support and the bashing that's there. Now that shield's not going to last very long. Kitsune Rush is committed for IBC. No picks yet off of anything as Beat gets committed.
Shatter. Great beat, though, by Bagel ahead of time to try and hold on to it, as you do have this potential recovery. Correction, Lyric actually going to be subbing in. Missed that one as we were looking at it, so we do have still a very formidable play, and you commented on it. Matt Merck, again, now rotating to their 4th capable hero selection on this faction, completely deleting that shield, and Cajun has to swap to something else, and they opt to go for this Doomfist again. Last time it was a stall tactic, and this time it's got to be the same, with once again no able to gain bearing or a foothold on this defensively. This will be a massive takeover once again for Boise, with 2 seconds shy of what they start with.
That's absolutely insane. It almost felt like they never really stopped the carry. They never stopped the push. It almost was always going. And even after the switch off the Orisa to the switch to the Rhine was just, it almost felt like the Rhine never had any shield up or any ability to really do much. And that was purely just because of Clear's charge. And Plato really, once again, as I sort of mentioned, being on that sword journey is such a deadly force. And time again, I've seen Plato just pull these 2-3Ks on almost every other fight.
That's why it was really important that they got the overclock. But the problem is that once you found that opening pick, and you have a Reinhardt going into a Bastion, and once they are in Sentry form and are able to just unleash that amount of damage, especially when there's nothing else to really mitigate it, like either a Sleep Dart or a Stun, or maybe when you've got even like the Orisa with the Spear Spin, like those types of things that just completely deafen the damage that comes out, the shield just soaks it. And once you've lost that, you've really honestly lost a lot of your anchor to play on these corners for that final stretch. And then once the pick came through, despite the Earth Shatter to slow the momentum, the sound barrier was there. Perfectly timed for Boise to not lose everything in that engagement, for them to recover, especially because they still had a decent position on the spawn advantage.
Yeah, so on that advantage, and going into, if they end up taking this map and end up pushing a lot, not as far, they push IVC into a game point position. So IVC is probably really looking to at least, they kind of have to win here unless they want to be put into a dire situation. It's not completely overthinking it. Yes, it is a very tall task.
I hope they've got enough water and they've got their cleats on, because they are walking up a vastly chilled and frigid mountain, as we are in that type of season right now.
Yes.
With 3 minutes and 30 on the clock, though, curious to see if there can be an opening pick by this Widowmaker, or if Harry is going to also find something. Great applied pressure by Lyric, though, and Cajun's going to be able to respond in kind, playing aggressively, but it comes in too late. You've already got Plato getting the follow-up into the back line. Matt Merck does go down, yes, but it's only 1 for the trade of 4.
Yeah, to lose your entire team, 1 trade is not it, and that's still just only 1 DPS that you really sort of did a lot to, and that's Matt Merck, who has that mobility to get back into the fight very quickly, so it's really not that detrimental of a pick to Boise State. While they do have spawn advantage, they can go really fast, they're back down to under 3 minutes here, so, and they have yet to get a tick or any type of contest on the point so far.
Nice pickup as well by Plato. Again, the opt to go to this Genji, high mobility, harassing the back line, causing a drawn away attention, can't get the value. Clear also still being able to go toe-to-toe with Cajun and never allow them to gain sustainability here, because they're constantly getting these support pickups. And now we find ourselves at that halfway marker where Irvine is now needing to look to somebody specifically, and my eyes are fixated on Riz. Is that Kitsune Rush going to be enough to work through this? Because there is 4 ultimates almost online for Boise as they lead right into it. Annihilation to counter. That is Clear, denying access onto that Kitsune Rush to get the boosted speed and damage to counteract it. And because they've forced them back, they have completely nullified Riz.
Yeah, almost getting there. That's the first time getting onto point. It's almost completely negated. Almost like they weren't on the point at all, and that was almost a beautiful execution of denying that, denying Riz's ulti there, and getting this like almost team fight winning ability just absolutely denied by Annihilation there from Clear, and now Boise State has 3 ultimates to work with. Not looking too good of a stance for Ivy to take.
Yeah, you got to make it fast. Irvine's gonna look for just a quick engagement. They're going to get as much percentage as they can out of this. They've opted to go onto the Winston for that dive-centric backline pressure to try and just eliminate Plato from the equation, but it's going to be extremely challenging as you have now only the Dragon Blade along with a sound barrier to utilize. It has to be massive to work through this.
Overclock is there, along as with Blade that's up and beat on the side of IVC. To counter that is Merck's Bomb. It does get a stick, but there was beat to counter that. Didn't get anything. Lynn's going to pick up 1 on Lyric. Plato getting the trade on the other Sojourn. They are on point now. They are making a little bit of progress, though. Quickly negated as they're not on point any longer. Shoved in this little black room, and there's Clear that's just going absolute tempo. And Cajun does get 1, though.
Yeah, Cajun does remove the Kiriko. But unfortunately, once you get that single pickup, it's again, you're weighing the option of where is most significant, and when they go in for this dive, they're left vulnerable elsewhere, and Boise reads it perfectly.
Yeah, only 15 seconds left. This is going to be a desperate, just attempt to do anything here, and Annihilation is active here and is ready to go, and there might not be an ult up to really counter that. You might have the Kiriko on the side of Riz that might be able to do something. There's Overclock as well, doing a lot of damage to Clear. But Clear's still standing up right now, not taking down at all.
No, Clear finally eliminated. That Kitsune Rush that Riz has gotten is so pivotal for Irvine. It's just now, can they manage to keep it going? The Primal Rage giving some harassment, knocking them back, opting in to still contest onto this. They've gained 1 tick so far, 2 more to go. But Matt Merck and Plato maneuvering in countless times before and are going to do so again. Takes down the counterpart. Matt Merck just instilling fear into Irvine, despite them having the respawn advantage, and with Clear back on the point and in Nemesis form, it will blockade any point of entry, and Boise State takes this 2-0.
A 4-minute holdout on the side of BSU. Looking at this play of the game, it is going to be played on the Sojourn. Quick look at what it was. Yeah, it was the second fight off the bat. Yeah, this Graviton and then the Snow Globe combo, and then just makes it such easy pickings for BSU, and just what a dominant, hybrid map for Boise State.
Very, very much so. And this is like what you were talking about and we discussed towards the top of the broadcast. What is it going to mean to instill this type of play? This broadcast, I guarantee you, many of the other teams, after they get through this first week, is going to look back to try and see what their competition has in store for them for this specific region. When you're looking at what is being done here, it is a statement moment. That is very dominant play, really comfortable, flexing onto these alternative roles for the types of compositions, like I've said, with specifically Matt Merck on that tank role, Clear stepping in, swapping onto showing these other characters within that pool. Again, you saw a Farah, you saw the May, you saw a variety of things that are coming through in this, and when you have that type of versatility, specifically on the Tracer, who was really high value, so much brought when it's coupled with the Sojourn, that's something you have to keep an extremely watchful eye on, because now when you're having an opponent come against Boise State, they have to be very cognizant of how this team plays. And you said it on a couple of occasions as well, tempo. One of Doc's keys to the game, tempo, tempo, tempo. And that really, really shows here.
Yeah, and that, Boise State off of it, on and off the Ramattra as well, showed their tempo as well. They didn't do that on the attacking side. They did it with Zarya, and they still showed the ability to tempo there. They had the Zarya almost always full charge. From what I saw a lot of the time, the Zarya almost was always glowing. Somewhere in the background or somewhere in the kill feed, there was a Zarya getting a kill. And it sort of just feels like this team is able to abuse that space so much. And with that third map going into Escort, it's going to be Circuit Royale going forward. So a newer map. I personally like it. Its design is really cool, very pretty. But being that automatic hybrid went off the bat, if Boise State starts off that attacking side, do they continue to try and tempo, try to push forward? They did it with push, or this hybrid, right? And they still managed to do it every single time. Or do they go something a little more lax? I don't think they step off the gas pedal here.
This is the most interesting part about it, is typically when we do enter onto this map specifically, or this style, there's a lot of Sigma play. There can be Widows tossed into it. This playing, especially this corner that we're going to swing around here visually, this is a very dominant position to play when you have a Sigma or even an Orisa in the mix. So I want to potentially see a little bit more of that, unless there is something that they feel confident where they can keep this Ramattra. Is it able to provide the same type of versatility and also asset as a whole playing on this map specifically? And that's something that I think is most exciting, and you can already see that there's a Widowmaker selection as we look to see who specifically has chosen this defensive side, and curious of what type of added value that can also bring.
I did see the Sigma in the outlines there when we were looking at their spawn, so I do agree these really long sight lines make it very easy for a Sigma in those long distances. There's also a Widowmaker on that side as well, so both teams, no matter what it is, kind of opted for this, and there's that Sigma Rock that was dedicated right away. And it is BSG on the side of defending for the first half around. Almost identical team comps besides the Plato on the Sojourn. And
Matt Merck, what can't you play? What can't you play?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Like, just be real. Like, let's just be real. What can't you play? Looking to flex here onto their opponent. Lion counteracting with a Widowmaker of their own to see what they can have function. As a couple of shots go wide, with the Sigma Shield blocking most of it for the time being, and also utilizing the payload itself to deny those sightlines. But once you go up top, Plato gonna hunt for the back line. Can't quite get Kid Maniac on that Zenyatta play, which is also a little bit of an interesting selection here. Getting that Discord Orb, allowing extra damage to come in if you have Irvine playing more aggressively on this, or correction, Boise State on this, and seeing what they can do to counteract it.
I especially imagine the Widowmaker is going to take absolute advantage of the Discord. If you get even the slightest bit of chip damage on a backline character and they just get picked off, but right off the bat, Plato going for a 3-piece, almost get the 4 out of 10 charge here. Is it possible?
Chasing it down!
Oh.
Matt Merck's going to take it away, though. You saw that aggressive positioning where Plato said, I'm going to come in for the melee, and then Matt Merck's like, nah.
No, that's
nah,
mine.
friend. I'm going to take that one. It's okay. I know you wanted it, but that's mine.
I'm going to be in your highlight reel one way or another.
When you've got this many characters, you're just like, let's go. I'm going to flex back onto my Tracer. My
Yeah,
tried and true
exactly.
Right now.
Almost kind of baited them into this Widowmaker dual ability, and then just showed up like, we're gonna change it around real quick. And here's that dominant spot you're just talking about.
I do like the fact that we're getting some variety when it comes to the composition from Irvine. They're not afraid to make these adjustments or these swaps, but the problem is that there's so much of it that it's making it challenging for them to accrue enough for these ultimates that they can utilize, since when you make the swap, you only retain that 30% on the specific role. Clear in the back now, still with the Sigma, home free right now, while the backline is getting chipped away at from Boise State. They've lost Plato. They don't have the overclock, but Chosen opting in for the Kitsune Rush. A beautiful accretion mid-air to deny Cajun their flux. And plays like this are so absolutely awestruck for Boise State to just lay into Irvine, where they have attempted to do so many things to counteract it. But with Plato returning to the mix again, it is a time and time tried and true correction here. And that's a second boulder. That is a nice boulder.
I do want to point out that both Clear and Cajun ulted there in that fight, and both got accretioned out of their ults. Yeah. So that was kind of funny to see. They kind of paid each other back for those ones. The most even trade of ults I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's those micro plays that really do make a difference. It still ends up leaning in favor of Boise State, as they were able to play the long run of that fight. You do still see this corner being a very challenging piece of hurdle that needs to be left over for Irvine, where they have once again this Dragon Ball. We've seen already once before the value that they can gain with it. But will they be shut down in the chaos that ensues for the last 30 seconds here? Accretion goes wide, doesn't land. You have now another flux from Clear, this time making sure that they don't get clipped by it, eluding the rock mid-air. There's an immortality field that buys a few seconds of time for Harry to get that 2-piece onto the blade, with Lion in the back giving assistance, and they might just have enough here to get this.
Ooh, there's the one pick on Lin. Actually, that's Riz getting the pick on the Matt.
Yeah, Matt
this
had
clear
a lot
down.
of high hopes there. Matt had a lot of high hopes there and didn't want to let it go, but finally they shut it down, so they ensure that they reach this checkpoint 2 minutes and 25 seconds, and now they find their next raid boss at this point, which is this ramp.
Yes,
this ramp is another challenging position to maneuver through, and this map as a whole has these checkpoints that are really, really key to maneuver through.
Boise State is looking to completely take advantage of that wrap point. This absolute choke point. And it feels like a lot more scrappy fighting on the side. Wow, the quick pick and the immortality field is going to save Riz. Not for much longer, as Clear's going to clean it up. It's a lot
Clear
of damage.
says when you jump out of this circle, you're not protected any longer, friend.
your life is forfeit outside of this little circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Boise State, though, I have to say, they're doing really, really well by the methodology behind Clear and how they're playing. They're getting these executions. They're finding a lot of value. Even gives the wave knowing of what they contributed to that fight. And now we've got 1 minute and 30 seconds for Irvine to get back into this.
Still a lot of time to push the point as far as you can, and get into that second checkpoint is really all you're looking for right now. With such little time, I imagine, the obvious end goal is to push it to the very end to get those 3 points, but I feel like right now, IB might be looking for, hey, let's get to the second point, let's get as far as we possibly can here, and look for a really big defensive position. There's a lot of damage. Plato picking up 2, and Lyric getting another one. Yeah, there's the IBC team already gone.
And that position is like no man's land. Like when you talk about like old school warfare, like that's what that is. Like that zone before you reach the ramp is free firing capabilities for Boise State, and that's why now they can play this aggressive. They're holding in the spawn. Even if you do have Irvine come out of this doorway, they have an opportunity to respawn, and they're more so looking to force out ultimates to leave this position. The rock almost gets them off the edge of it. Plato comes in with a beautiful play.
Ooh.
The overclock to boot. Clear denies and consumes the pulse bomb. Everything falls in line. That is 2 ultimates by Irvine. That is completely eradicated from the equation and can't even get out of this one.
Yeah, with 19 seconds left, did Cajun almost get booped? Cajun almost got accretioned off the map. That would have been insane. And you see that Trace, they're looking for some type of back cap as they're winding down to about 5 seconds here. Nobody's contesting that right now. Harry goes down.
They get some pressure to gain that extra little bit of distance. They know they've lost the front line battle, so they attempt to take the flank with a cheeky bypass to push the card, but as they reconvene and find the shutdown, not able to really get anything else moving forward into the situation. Clear's just going to deny touch, gets even a double tap mid-air. And there's no way that Irvine's going to be able to get any more distance. So now the moment and the checkpoint has been set. Boise State knows exactly what they need to do on the offense to claim this as a 3-0 scoreline, and for week 1 show a fearsome methodology behind their gameplay.
Initiating match.
Yeah, I'm looking at getting this 1 point, not getting it very far here, but we did see, you know, sort of Boise State be able to just, you know, what felt like IVC really getting their foothold here and almost being like sort of this even match. We just see Boise State just sort of, I don't know, create this sort of different beast, this different dog that came out and really kind of showed off. They pushed them in their own spawn. That was such a devastating position to be in. And pushing past that 1 point, I don't imagine will be that difficult if they just keep rolling IVC like they have so far.
And we'll see now as the sides swap. The intensity continues to grow. And there's a lot on the line for Irvine. I mean, some of the biggest things that they've really done well, at least when it does come to some of these Sojourn trades and plays, they are able to get a couple of really good picks. The problem is once they execute on those picks and once they do start to gain some kind of momentum, it's instantly counteracted by this forward applied pressure from Clear. There's no way to recover from it. The shield is placed there to deny any more sight lines, and it's just this ebb and flow that doesn't work for them. They're just trying to understand how to gain more, but every time they take the time to get more, they find themselves with the short end of the stick.
Yeah, it really is tough to take advantage of when you're already down and about. I don't know if you guys saw that quickly. If you were looking, we did have a little picture-in-picture screen that showed the support from my very own Goblin. Just take a little rest, take a little nap. Not that big of a deal.
Hey, when you're tagged out and not needed, I mean, taking a well-deserved nap on a comfy couch like that, I don't blame you.
Tell your teammate, hey, I'm a little tired here. You're gonna step in for me, right?
Yeah, just pull the weight. I don't need to be here. It's fine. I'm confident indeed, as you're going to have this payload now start to reach this initial checkpoint region. The corner is necessary to bypass, instantly taking control of, making sure that they take every precaution. This Bastion play as well, something we've seen a lot more, and specifically coming out already from Boise State, yielding value in Kings Row, is going to do the same here. There's no way to dislodge it, and that is an easy checkpoint reach.
What it felt like it took IVC almost like 2 or 3 minutes to get to the single checkpoint. It took Boise State no more than, you know, about a minute. Half that time was, you know, travel time because the cart couldn't move any faster.
Matt Merck now, again, showing another in the gauntlet as they come out onto this Sojourn. Gets denied, though, by Lion, so that's something. This Plato looks to recover with this turret. Can they get anything? No. Lion on this Hanzo gets a lot of value. I really like this look, though, from Irvine, because they've managed to be able to gain some kind of value synergizing with this Zenyatta and this Hanzo, which we've not yet seen before. That's what I talked about. They need something to break these shields on Boise State.
And as much as opportunity they had to break the shields as well, you know, it's the same level as, you know, Matt Merck now has the overclock and Lyric now has the window as well. But Plato also having that turret form, any shields or any extra health or armor you decide to have is just going to be absolutely demolished. Not before Plato's taken down and then BM'd by the Dragon as well.
And Lion coming in with another cleanup on to clear. This is something that is very, very momentum-based now for Irvine because they have this high ground position, and if Lion can manage that window and not find themselves out in the open for Mattmerk to get a pick, especially with this overclock, that gives a lot of value. But Harry, playing aggressively, goes down and leaves Irvine vulnerable. I heard the flux from Clear. Oh, and they go specifically for Lion. They know who would be the contributing factor in these engagements, and they hyper-focus it. But now we talk about where there's a lot of fixation on key players. You've opted to solo go for the Flux Song to 1. That leaves an opening here for Harry to be able to play aggressively, get those pickups. The Discord Orb constantly calling out the focus fire, but the Kitsune Rush could just be the nail in the coffin. Plato moving forward, the support's giving room. That is a disruptor shot, zoning them around the outside, which they cannot maintain, they cannot touch, and that will make it a 3-0 scoreline. That is going to be Boise State, not Irvine Valley, taking the win here, as they will be able to close this out.
Yeah, closing out this here in such a fashion. Clear getting to play a game here. I imagine this was, I hope it's the one they got accretion out of. No, it was actually when they were on attacking. I really wanted that one.
It's just having that fun time with the. It's having that fun time here while Plato is just in the kill feed with the overclock. Just I'm gonna come in. I'm a melee. I'm a Galaxy U. I'm a melee. I'm a Sphere U. It's just that's all it is. You can even see Clear just leaning back, saying, another day at the office. We good. Don't worry about it. I got it. We fine.
It's all good. It's all chill. You know, best of 5 made it. You know, made it in well, I don't know, maybe 50 minutes. But they closed that series out. That's impressive. There was no breaks. There was no stops. They were just gas pedal 100% of the way. And they're like, yeah, we're just gonna roll through this best of 5 real quickly. You know, no sweat, no issue about it. And you know, even with the swap of Goblin out as well. So, Boise State looking strong. It is week 1. It is day 1. So I don't think we've seen the strongest of opponents that we will see in the future. But I definitely think it's nevertheless a great thing for the team to sort of start out such strongly and, you know, with such confidence as well. Because ultimately that's what it is. You know, you walk away with your head held high and you start feeling good about yourself going into the new season.
And when you look at some of the other, teams that are a part of this, Texas A&M, Mizzou, those are also other big players that we've seen before. And when it comes to the collegiate scene, Edgewood, I've not had the chance to, but like some of those others in the course of these weeks ahead of time will be really interesting to start seeing what they're kind of made of, their fundamentals, their foundations, what they've looked to grow and develop over the course of these weeks before entering into that playoff section, which is going to be in April. So there is still a lot of time to learn and really digest, especially since, with the registration opening up for collegiate, there's going to be a ton of camaraderie and looking to really lay down a foundation for a squad that can come into this championship series and make a statement.
Oh, yeah, make it a statement. It's all it's about. But we saw 3 of the player of the games from Overwatch stuff. But now to discuss our very own player of the game here at Boise State.
Yeah.
I feel like the default is Plato. I feel like the default is Plato on the sword drone. I've seen it so many times. I personally don't catch a whole lot of Overwatch games, but even when I watch them, I'm like, yeah, my choice but in Plato with the 3 or 4 piece that they got. I feel like it's going to be clear for me. Just what a dominating performance on Ramatra and then Zarya and then also a Sig as well.
I'm leading the same thing. I would say that it's clear. It's gonna be clear. There you go. Coming in on top. We of course have to highlight the DPS and what they do. Mattmerk as well for their versatility and like I mentioned several times in the broadcast, their versatility in hero pool. But clear on this Ramatra and just their overall tank play was so monumental. You saw a lot of it specifically in this control map, and even further when it came to most recently the map with the Sigma play. Like there's so much just well-rounded understanding of not only of this new hero, but how to play with the rest of the squad and influence wherever they find a weak spot on Boise State is that Clear can come in and try and rectify that, play triage, and be able to sustain through it. And it really, really heads up play and overall well-deserved.
Yeah, 3 different tanks or 3 different maps. And the ICC player of the game is brought to you by Idaho Central Credit Union, who believes a great deal makes a team more successful, just like Idaho Central's helping members achieve financial success. Clear is the Idaho Central Player Union of the game, or Idaho Central Credit Union player of the game. My apologies, English is difficult. But starting to wrap up, any final thoughts or questions? Because it's just, I feel like that series was such a dominating performance by BSU. I feel like there's not much you can really criticize them for.
When it came to, we'll look at it from both perspectives. When it comes to,
Mm-hmm.
the opponent, specifically for Irvine, just really being able to now take this one as a learning opportunity, especially when you were attempting to try and play your Ramatra against another Ramatra, start adapting and understanding what those strengths were that Clear brought to the table. How is it that the rest of the team was able to work with that Ramatra and what you can do to elevate your play to counteract it? And then same thing when it comes to the other maps. Okay, if you find yourself having your supports being a little bit overwhelmed, I liked the variety in hero selection that they brought to the table, but it always felt potentially either too rushed or a playbook that wasn't fully refined for them to try and counteract what they're going to see. And with this week one, they now have intel. They have information of what they need to do and what they need to work on. Now, Boise State on the other side of it, the biggest thing that I can say to them, they played so dominantly, is that they can't get comfortable. And I know Doc's not going to let them get comfortable. So at this point, it's just going to make sure that they continue to build their foundation and find these unique strategies that they're getting with Matt Merck, with Plato, and synergizing around Clear and what Clear brings to the table.
I know Doc might have some words for that one after a little bit, but I won't be here to see it then. But make sure to stick around after these. We do have the top 5 for you, but after the top 5, we do have some more Valorant coming up from NEAC. So make sure to stick around, and we have these top 5 for you. It was great here from the Boise State desk. We wish you all the best luck. Have a great rest of your day. Clear and Chosen were just able to stay on point and just be absolute menaces and give their team enough time to just keep kind of pushing forward back on the site and retake it.
And
a lot of ultimate
Tsune Rush active. That's going to give a momentum shift here for Irvine Valley, especially when you have a great Dragon Blade and dash that they can remove Clear. It is the 99 into the overtime, so there will be a chance for Boise to get back into this. Attempt after attempt to get onto the point. Matt Merck is actually still sustaining onto the point, and with this swiftness coming back in from the Sojourn on Plato, it's giving a recovery opportunity, able to shut down the few and pull this out of nowhere.
Push themselves to the choke point. They're going to the Ramatra ult. Oh, they got it there. This
from Cajun could do work, but Clear is going to respond in kind, doing the same thing. And the hard part is that the Kiriko ultimate, the Kitsune Rush for Boise State, will be able to overwhelm that Annihilation and deny any recontention by Cajun. If you have Irvine playing more aggressively on this, or correction, Boise State on this, and see what they can do to counteract it.
I especially imagine the Widowmaker is going to take absolute advantage of the Discord. If you get even the slightest bit of chip damage on a backline character and they just get picked off, but right off the bat, Plato going for a 3-piece, almost getting the
Dragon. We've seen already once before the value that they can gain with it, but will they be shut down in the chaos that ensues in the last 30 seconds here? Accretion goes wide, doesn't land. You have now another flux from Clear, this time making sure that they don't get clipped by it, eluding the rock mid-air. There's an E-More.
It's better if I let you Hello and welcome into the Boise State Esports Arena. We are here with NECC Activation Week 2, which is the final week of activation. Boise State, not to brag or anything, but we did go 2-1. 2-1 week 1, so that's pretty good. We're feeling pretty great about seeding and all of that stuff tonight. I'm your host, Colby D'Angelo Alloway, and joining me to call all of the action tonight is Richard Rickrad Pontillo. He's joining us from afar, remotely, and we're super excited to have him for NECC Activation Week. So before we get into the broadcast, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. You know, we just got to see some Overwatch a little while ago. Now we get to hop into Valorant. The last time you and I were able to talk based on Valorant was last week, so we get to do more of it this week. Overall, I'm feeling pretty pumped right now.
Okay, and to kind of like go back to the opening question we had last week for week 1, as we continue into activation week, what is the most important thing to focus on going into week 2, which is final activation?
I mean, the biggest thing right now is being the final week, you have to really start playing your cards and in this case, you can see some very unique strategies when it gets towards the tail end of this. And, these final segments, there can be some really unique curveballs or strategies that have not been played before. So you can potentially have an upper hand against your opponent. Or some of the biggest things when we were able to look at it last week is just understand, how to play skill to skill and what these individuals are able to do with these types of agents. A lot of it was very dominant in regards to when it came to entry fragging, also understanding of just being able to gain the advantage through those pistol rounds and what they can bring to that long run matchup. And a couple of really possibly lengthy rounds we had towards the end of it. Overtime was in the midst of us, but now that we're going into this final week, I can only see it get more intense.
And what is a 2-1 position? What position does that put Boise State in going into week 2?
I mean, the position itself is one of those things where you put yourself in the position, but you can't always have to look at it. When you think about from the player's perspective, is you need to almost kind of allow that to leave your mind in that sense. Like, you have to understand the stakes, of course, but if you allow it to really start to concern you for any reason or make you think one way or the other, whether you're in a dominant position or a catch-up position or the underdog position, all those different things psychologically, you just have to make sure that you play your game and that you're always trying to focus on what you can do to optimize and bring, like we've talked on many of occasions of those, keys to the game from Doc.
And actually, we can get those up on screen right now just to kind of have something before we get into the Valorant.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to see it, because I know we always talked about tempo when it comes to Overwatch. And then when it comes to, the Valorant aspect of things, it's really looking to try and take those trades, never take an unfavorable fight, all these different things that we look to talk about and immerse ourselves in when it comes to the game of Valorant, since there is, a very different dynamic to when we look at, a variety of other games that are within this realm of first-person shooters. And excited to see how it's going to play out today between these two.
And the other key to the game that we always talk about in Valorant specifically is to focus angles into flank.
Yeah, a lot of flanking for sure. We saw quite a bit of that with Jet play last week. And as we're entering now into this, which is going to be a best of one here. So you do have to lay everything on the line, and it looks like we are going to be entering in onto the map of Haven. And what we did see previously, the big aspect of this is you're looking now to try and focus on 3 key points versus 2, like what we did see on Icebox more previously, and how they're going to play to this. And seeing defensively what Las Vegas is going to be able to do, because yes, it is going to be defensively Las Vegas here, where Boise State is going to start on the attack. And they, more often than not, when they begin on the attack, are able to gain that type of precedence. They start to really have the advantage early, putting their opponent into an uncomfortable position. So once we do have that swap of sides, it is a game of catch-up.
It looks like we have a couple of light buys in terms of armor. They're kind of skipping out a little bit on the weapons, whereas Skies and J-Bag are taking the opposite approach, and Aldim is just choosing to save.
Yeah, light armor, a little bit. Again,
just a little
more reserve when we get into round 1, seeing what they can get. You can see that there is a couple of pickups. You do have the Trailblazer, making sure that they do have that information gathering aspect from the sky. I like the Killjoy Jet placing that sentry turret to deny this flanking maneuver, which you mentioned it's significant if you can find these backline angles. A couple of decent shots go through double doors as Rihanna looks to chip away. The question is, are they going to go for this? Oh, wow. All right, they've got coverage by Skies, though, making sure that they've got assistance, but unfortunately gets picked up by Joe.
Joe just pops around that corner, takes Skies from the side. It looks like Boise State's kind of investigating A. We are seeing if we want to try to attack it here. There's obviously somebody in doorway. Boise State J-Bag is trying to scout them out. Looks like they're going to trust in their teammates and plant the spike, leaving themselves vulnerable for the time being.
Smoke drops down from heaven to underneath, so there is some coverage for the moment. Looking to go for the Prowler. Does get denied in the smoke, so they aren't completely crippled for the moment visually. As Rihanna plays into the smoke, there's a collapse down under. Las Vegas manages to get this cleanup here on Boise State, especially since they had the numbers advantage out the gate by Joe's pickup, and that will be round 1 with the defuse going in favor of University of Las Vegas.
But, I mean, it's just the pistol round. Boise State could theoretically kind of take this back in these next couple of rounds. We'll see how it goes. Though UNLV is now at a slight advantage because they did so cleanly win that with 3 people surviving.
And this is going to be, the big part. It's going to be either a force buy or they're going to go for the eco. I think at this point it would probably be more favorable if they go actually, No, they're going to force buy here. Okay, so they're going to force buy going into this. They're going to get a couple of Spectres. They're going to go for that as well, bringing out the Sheriff and the Frenzy. Some recovery, or at least not spending anything on armor. A couple of shots, though, by the Marshal. Eluded, but Joe gets 2 with it down A long.
Somebody's got to stop Skies there. Joe Schmo taking out Boise State. Boise State now 3-5. It is an uphill battle as Aldim searches for their next opponent with just a pistol and a prayer. They didn't even see Jin take him down.
And this is really, really well done so far here from UNLV. There's a nice shutdown, at least onto 1, but unfortunately this is a very, very dominant Jet long-range Marshal pick that came through right out the gate onto A long. I'd like to see Boise State potentially adapt to taking an alternative positioning, looking to enter into, I would say, maybe B, because they've already found that there is value from this Jet on UNLV with the Marshal. Probably has the op at this point now with the currency that they've gained, but this is now where you can have Boise State clap back. They've got these assault rifles. They have some armament as well to give that extra fortification going into these gunfights and how they're going to play it out.
So it looks like now's the time for a Boise State comeback. It looks like Rihanna is thinking about perhaps going A, but it looks like the Jet for Boise State is approaching point B, avoiding that long A sideline. Ooh, this time it's Rihanna that's going to take people out A long. Joe Schmo and A3 are already down, putting Boise State up.
And this is what we saw last week. Rihanna is able to find some really, really vital and key plays. Great blind on that interaction. This is a massive play coming out from Boise State. I mean, again, they had a chance to finally go toe-to-toe with the weaponry since they only did the little bit of a force buy in the previous round, but really making headway. Rihanna getting that early 2, and now we're going to look to see how they can play this out since they can keep consistency, at least when it comes to their economy and their weaponry.
So it looks like Skies is maybe thinking about going to point C. Possibly on a flank there. We see Rihanna looking B again, but it looks like Boise State, the way they're currently stacked up, it looks like they're going to try to approach A. And we've got some heavy armor on the board. Not everybody is just in light armor. And Boise State has some favorable weapons going in here. But UNLV has the ace in the hole of the Jet ult, so Boise State will need to be very careful of that as we approach.
For this rifle gun round. A little bit more of a hesitancy coming out from UNLV. Not opting to press forward to find themselves into Rihanna again. Jin gets Skies, though. And again, this is where I liked that slow, methodical play coming out from UNLV. Boise State at this point is going to have to start making some momentum here. Op shot down A long. Pings coming through. Does get a second. And this is now a reoccurring thing from Joe. Looking into this A-long position, denying accessibility into it to maneuver towards that narrow area where Aldim is right now. Gets hit for the moment. 2 versus 5. Rihanna has made some miraculous plays before, and curious to see if they're going to do so again, but this is not an easy feat to do.
I think Rihanna is a bit more safe on point B than Aldim on point A, just because of how oppressive Joe Schmo has especially been on long. Looks like Rihanna's, gonna lose the duel of the Killjoys. And this is Boise State, last man standing.
That's so disheartening. Like, you know that they're there. They're not ready for it. They're going for the turret. You saw the hesitation as if it was going to be a pickup. And when they move out, nice pickup at least from Aldim. Again, now you're just trying to hurt as much as you can. Wallbang onto Jin. All right, okay. Aldim not going to play in the corner, just wanting to keep this weapon. Aldim does not want to lose this weapon, and they don't, and they are okay with it. And they go for the cry kitty spray. It's okay. Next round.
They're okay with it. They took 2 people down, which actually kind of staunches a little bit of the bleeding for Boise State here. Now, what I would like to see on the approach here is anything other than an attempt from A-long. I think A-long, they're just going to continue kind of feeding into Joe Schmo and getting down a couple if they continue to go there. So we'll see if they'll be able to come up with another strategy.
No long-range weaponry coming out here from Boise State. Still opting for the assault rifle, not looking to counteract the op. A lot of great smokes coming in, though, to deny. As the alarm bot is censored, the turret as well, but they give the lockdown. This will deny accessibility to all 3 junctions onto B point. So now you can see there's actually a counter lockdown. instantly played by UNVL. They know exactly how to deny access onto this, and because it comes out just seconds later, it makes sure that they can reposition back onto this and know that there is going to be multiple members pressing forward. Skies up top in the smoke, waiting to push out into this. A lot of gunplay. Looks for the corner, gets the turret. 2 smokes still active, and they get the plant, and now it's the post plant for Boise.
Looks like Skies is currently just holding the high ground on those boxes, waiting for somebody to go in. We see the Jet hard commit. We see Joe Schmo in their smoke. We see Skies gonna Skies gonna get taken out by Joe Schmo. Joe Schmo is also gonna take out Daimyo, but immediately as Proton is taken down, this is trade for trade. We are 3-on-3. We might see the Jet ult committed here.
Joe Schmo coming out with 2 big picks. Can they do it again? But all of them says not today. The smoke only covers part of the door.
Oh no!
Shot from
the
up top!
high
They're up top! Go for it! They get it! There's still a takedown, but Alden gets a 3-piece here towards the end of it and recovers the round. I was so scared that Joe Schmo was going to look down and dome Alden, but is more fixated on that entryway and allows Alden to take down all 3 that remain.
Aldim says, I become stronger the more of my allies you take down, and that's definitely what we've seen from the playstyle. Aldim is not usually one of the first picks on the board, but they've definitely been the last several for Boise State here. Kind of keeping Boise State in it, 2-3 here.
I had like a heart attack moment. I'm looking at all of them, like I can see the Jet in my peripheral vision on the box, and I'm like, please know that they're there. Please know that they're there. And he finally gets it before they look at him. So now it is only a 1-round deficit. Emphasis on to C, which really is a great place to be since you're having to play a little bit of a catch-up here. Goes for the wall bank, gets it. It's a 1-for-1 trade. J-Bag looking to deny visibility for the plant, so they will enter this post plant once again, 4 versus 4, and again, Boise State in their element.
We do see Skies has committed the Jet ult, but so far we don't think Joe Schmo has just yet. Boise State waiting for UNLV to approach on the post plant. Everybody's kind of holding their cross angles, waiting to see which entryway UNLV is going to try to come through. We peek with the Jet ultimate.
Oh, beautiful!
Gonna get the first elimination.
Oh, they got 2 blocked sightlines there with that and giving value. Having the advantage now, Boise State swapping to the tri-shot. Pistol gets it, also finds a wall bang. And now Boise State makes it an even 3 for 3, and they've recovered quite well here despite the early few round deficit that they had.
Yeah, Boise State definitely adjusted to the oppressive Joe Schmo on A-Long. And now Joe Schmo has still been a player of impact for UNLV, but Boise State isn't starting these rounds, you know, down 2 or down 3, so they have much more of a chance once they actually get the spike planted and are in post plant.
Joe also had their blades as well. They committed it into that and lost out value onto it, so it was a good trade for that, and the ultimates available for Boise State are more viable.
Ooh.
Oh,
Joe
no!
Schmo just pulls the trigger first.
Trade! Oh, and it was a wall bang too. Insult to injury. Now we'll see what they're gonna do. Boise State kind of kicking themselves a little bit, saying, "Man, if I would have just held a second longer." Are they gonna force him out? He's still there? No, they dashed out. So now Boise State still looking to push up this A position, looking for a cross angle. Jin gets the shutdown, and now it's looking a little more dire.
At this point, Aldim's kind of flanking around the back, seeing what they can do. A-Long, Joe Schmo with the op.
This is so
challenging.
challenging.
Oh my gosh,
You do get the elimination. They're going to want to go for that operator too, so even if they win this, they want to carry it over into the next round. Trailblazer going out forward to get that crowd control for the moment. Actually going to swivel around, gets a flanking position onto Proton. And blinding, they're going to get this plant here.
And it looks like we see the Jellyfish go out, hunting for their next targets. One does get destroyed, and then F3's going to go ahead and take down Aldim, and Jim's going to finish it on Daimyo.
It was close. It was a really nice committance. I think the Seekers could have been held on to so that they could look for the later rounds, but at this point they thought they had the opportunity. They noticed that both of the Seekers went towards that narrow doorway versus taking a more upward position to the high ground, so they just had to try and keep a focus onto that. But neither here nor there. That's going to be a round win for UNLV as Boise State once again goes back to the drawing board for this next one.
And it looks like Boise State is not going to be able to take that op from UNLV, so we expect Joe Schmo to be oppressive on right, it looks like we see some armor, we see some decent weapons coming out for Boise State here.
I'm looking to see specifically if the Killjoy is going to commit to anything. No, they're going to hold off on this. They have to. They're in a weird position when it comes to currency that they need to work with, so they're going to opt to hold off on some of the weaponry, I believe. And all of them sticking close to skies now, over towards the sea. Long smoke, committed. Make sure they've got point of entry. Nobody ratting out in the corner in the choke point.
We saw both of them check it just to make double sure.
Yeah.
It looks like nobody really knows where anybody is just yet. Ooh, right as I say that, Pure Bird come
Nice
out.
denial.
Hitter's gonna take out
Denies the guiding
Skies.
light. But look at this triple position. It's a 3-point angle. One on the high ground, one behind box with the op from Joe, and another in that lower level towards the double door. It was just devastating for Boise to work into this.
And it looks like 3v3, no, 2v2 now, though members of Boise State are very weak as we kind of go in the doorway. Joe Schmo is going to get that elimination on Daimyo. E3 is going to get it on the J-Bag. This is a 1v2. It looks like Rubriana has at least upgraded their weaponry, so if they have to live, if they want to keep that, and it looks like Proton's going to take them out on point, and that is Boise State now down to 3-5.
These are really intense moments. I have to say, it's a very fast-paced engagement over and over again. You get like a brief, subtle moment of a breath, and then it goes right back into it. And because of the chaos like that, it's really quite compelling to see how these individuals play against one another. UNLV is still having themselves, you know, a little bit of a challenge getting rid of Boise State, despite Boise being down 2 rounds.
It looks like we see Ruriana fully buying armor. We'll see what weapon they end up choosing this time. Hopefully they have enough to do more than a pistol.
I mean, the Stinger, again, I always have the Stinger. Oh, they're going to try and rush into this. They do get 2. I like it. As Ruriana is going to put that bot up top towards the window to make sure that they do have intel on the flanking position. Very clinical and surgical entry onto this. I loved the rush tactic that Boise State has, and now they just have to hold their angles and make sure that they do not find themselves in a deficit with the gun tree.
Boise State is a post-plant team. I think the 3 rounds that they have won, they've planted and then just kind of held their angles. We see one angle smoked off there. We do see the ultimate committed and then immediately taken out. The trade, though, Joe Schmo's going to get all in for it, but then Skies is going to take out Proton, leaving Joe Schmo 1v3.
And Joe Schmo's got to get a different, either they have to have a good offhand, or at this point they're just going to look to recover. They're going to just save. They have no need to stick into this. They got what they needed. They're just going to draw back, and that's what you see this chase being. Boise State wants to deny that operator. They are rushing to find this jet play and can't seem to grab it in time, so they will carry that. Oh, and gets one even before the end of it. Can they stop it? No, they can't. Joe keeping it, and the currency is going to still run it over for Joe Schmo.
Oh my god, it's not even close, Joe Schmo, with all of that currency there against some of the members of Boise State here. But Skies takes out Header and Jin. Skies takes out Header. Daimyo follows up with a Jin kill. That was a really nice, aggressive push from Boise State. They lost one, but they ended up 1, so they were able to get the spike down, get the smoke, and then just kind of hold the point and wait for everybody to come to them.
And it's really just catching their opponent off guard. 1-for-1 trade again, very aggressive, seeing if Ruriana can get that positioning a second time here. Going in for the plant. Same strategy as before. Nano Swarm denying entry for the moment to guarantee the plant, but there is a big rolling thunder and still gets the shot onto Joe Schmo with the blades. Oh no, it's looking scary. Seekers denied. That's going to be it. Alden gets it.
Boise State taking the round here as we enter into our next buy phase.
I'm on like the edge of my seat with a lot of this. I'm like just having a field day right now.
This was critical. This was right before you see the rolling thunder and then you see the jet with the blades and you're like, oh, Daimyo's gonna get it, but no, it was in fact Joe Schmo that got by Daimyo. Daimyo, of course, went down after that, but once you take down the jet with the blades, I mean, the rest of your team can clean up pretty effectively.
Because that's such a significant player in this when we look at the 5 stack.
Especially.
There's been so much brought to the table by Joe Schmo, and with these blades, it can be extremely crippling. But, oh, that was actually great intel to know that somebody's there. Rolling Thunder comes out now by Boise State, pressing onto this point systematically once again, 3rd time. Rihanna holding Nano Swarm. Again, clockwork from Boise State right now. They know exactly how they want to play this point because they've exploited the weakness. The lockdown comes in, but you can see Daimyo attempting to be on the outskirts of it, but still find themselves in it. It has to reposition, does get out in time before being completely crowd controlled, and now they're going to have to watch this long angle to see if they can deny this spike. Oh no, the defuse is going to come through. It's all on Rihanna. Can they hold off long enough? The smoke is there, free firing blind, can't get it! And Proton will guarantee the pickup so that you do have the defensive position diffuse for UNLV.
That was a really big crowd control, forcing Boise State off of the point so that UNLV could kind of move in and force Boise State into the uncomfortable position of then trying to see what they could. They couldn't stop the defuse because Joe Schmo, again, had that long angle, and immediately you see him take out Daimyo, even as Daimyo takes out Jin, and then Proton immediately follows that back up. Overall, a really nice retake by UNLV.
And now when we take a look at this buy, they're putting everything into this right now. And it has to be a win here for Boise State, or the next round's just gonna be such a hurdle. Guiding Light comes out, making sure that they can potentially follow up here with the Aftershock. I like this changeup though, because now they've been consistently playing on C, so there's no one here for A. They've opted to play the better chess game, but Jin gets the pickup. J-Bag in the corner, can't get anything. Jin gets a triple with Joe finding a fourth. And despite all the investment that Boise had and this pickup in the corner, that is so devastating. Now that you know that you have to go into this next round with no real economy to work with before the side swap. 60 seconds, what can be done? Nothing is there.
I gotta say, Boise State played the better chess game, right? They went to point A after taking point C so many times and after having a lot of success on point C, but UNLV just outdid them purely by gunplay there.
And now as we take the swap shortly, we've got one more round here. I'm curious to see how it's going to fend off. You can see the swap of sides and where the focus is going to be. A little bit of emphasis with a lot of the crowd control. I like this play, though, coming out from the robot along with the sentry turret, holding that angle over towards anybody pushing into double doors with the assistance of the Omen for potential smokes. So all in all, we'll see how Boise State's going to fend off with this spread defensive position since there is a 2-round advantage. They need to get this pistol round. Boise State has to win this to start gaining that momentum to try and recover from the deficit that they have.
Bird blinded somebody. That's a good start for Boise State here. As we see Skies pushing in on that jet, kind of checking their angles, making sure nobody's there.
Oh, shots! Despite that being sporadic, they at least get one, but unfortunately have to go for the reload.
A trade is not bad, but that's not what Boise State is looking for. J-Bag has gone undetected on this corner angle so far, so they're probably just so they're gonna take out Ifri for it.
For that.
Just as soon as they came across that. And now J-Bag is kind of on the prowl here, meeting up with Aldim. And then now we switch over to Daimyo, back to J-Bag, going in through building. Their mating room?
They have to try and find them. They know that the plant is down. They just have to get some intel. There is a couple of shots trading out. They collapse onto this, but the health values are low. Is J-Bag and Alden able to do enough of it? They're going to go for potentially the single tap, but no, they're going to go for a half tick, drawing out potentially the fifth, but they go for that. They trade it out. Boise State now giving a little bit of that ultimate percentage towards their partner and able to take this, which is so necessary, like I commented. So now it's going to be an anti-eco or the force for UNLV to see if they can make this an even keel. But again, Boise State has the advantage here, and they're feeling good, and they know it.
This is monumental for Boise State because Boise State had previously been in the position of force buying almost every other round when they could against UNLV, and now they finally put UNLV in that position. So now even though UNLV is up a round, they either have to force buy and then win the round and then go up 2, or force buy, and if they lose the round, that would be great for Boise State.
J-Bag holding the line here. Let that just pass by. Already learned that there is a piece of crowd control denied.
Somebody got one.
Blinds. What a
Massive.
stellar play in the chaos of the smoke. Boise State. And I believe they got the spike too. I could be mistaken. Actually, it is still out. There it is. It is planted on the ground, so now they just have to hold the line.
Stairwell, we didn't check the flank. So Header's going to go ahead and take out Daimyo through the smoke. Just a little bit of spray. Aldim tries to get that bird blind in there. Does a little bit of healing. The members of Boise State are kind of topped up here against UNLV. Skies takes down Header, but Proton takes down Skies. This is a 2-on-1 as Boise State moves into the smoke and closer onto the point.
I just want to make sure they don't line up. They play different. They
Nice.
make sure their angles aren't in the same sight line, so that guarantees the pickup. Great job by Boise State, because if they find themselves lined up in a situation like that and through the smoke, you get that double kill, recover the spike, claim the win. There's a lot of things that can go bad there. So again, even these fundamental aspects of just making sure that you are playing very aware, even in situations that are tense, is really key for Boise State. Now they find themselves at an even matchup between the two. They have a very, very good buy here, and at this point now, this is the gun round for... Actually, no, it's going to be a bonus here. Never mind. It's one more round before we can see the full-out gun round between these two.
It looks like Daimyo's just kind of holding that long sight line as well as Skies. It looks like the remaining 3 members of Boise State are kind of spread out through A and B. It looks like Aldim's going to have first contact. Rihanna's going to go down with TE3. We do see someone walk through the smoke. Joe Schmo's going to just take Aldim out with a pistol to the head. Skies is going to take down Joe Schmo for him, though. But immediately after that, Header and Proton come up, leaving Daimyo as the solo member of Boise State.
Yeah, that just goes very awry, and that's a thrifty, too. Because here's the big thing, is since they were able to play this in a thrifty round, they didn't even have to really spend the currency. They probably have 2 or 3 weapon upgrades outright just from grabbing it from the opponent. So now they can look for a follow-up round that they can basically not spend anything. It's only 2 that are going to have to contribute into this because that's what was eliminated by UNLV in the exchange. And they're feeling really good about that because they got this thrifty. And now you have Boise State having to play with a very heavy eco.
So Boise State is kind of at a disadvantage here. We see a couple of light armors, but no heavy armor. Ooh, and Jin is immediately going to take out J-Bag and Daimyo. Joe Schmo is also going to take out Rihanna. Not looking good for Boise State 2v5.
That's so rough. But again, you're at kind of the mercy of your opponent. Aldim at least gets a weapon upgrade because of the takedown.
Interesting style commit. Jet going in with the knives. Ooh, not going to get... Not even going to get anybody there as Jin's going to take him with a triple kill, 2 of which happened right as Boise State left their spawn. I want to say Jin was the MVP of that round.
Yeah, I mean, the reason they're going to force out the blades from Sky is because at this point, that's the only opportunity that they can get some type of weaponry in that sense that compensates for the fact that they have to play a little bit more cautious and go for this eco. But now they've got some things that they can work with. They're going to go for either the full armor or partial armor to invest into the weaponry, which you can see right there. Phantoms and Vandals across the board. Really only going to be one that has the light armor, but they've spent everything. Where on the opposing side, you see everyone with 6,500 credits or more.
So Boise State down to 7-9. We do have access to a Sky ult. Skies is going to kind of check their corners here, try to walk through doorway. And it looks like they're approaching the long way around to point B or C or scouting out. Ooh, it looks like Aldim's going to go down to Proton. Not a whole lot of information right now.
No, and you can see Skies is knowing there's somebody here. They might have drawn back for the moment because they had the numbers advantage to play over towards C.
Big elimination there made by Skies.
Yeah.
It's going to even things up, give Boise State a more even chance. This point, we see 2 smokes come out. That is 1 unsmoked doorway, and Daimyo eliminates the first person to walk through, but the second person gets the pick up there. That is Jin, Rihanna, and Skies. Taking this round, it looks like we just have to hunt down the Killjoy through the smoke.
Gunplay was critical by Boise State. They found a lot of good trades here. And now UNLV in the corner, being pincered, not able to survive, easy defuse, picking up the weapon as well. And that will allow Boise State to only make it a 1-round deficit.
And with that 1 round and some of the weapons that they just picked up, Boise State has a pretty good shot of taking down UNLV. They're not going to have to force buy. They're going to be coming at UNLV pretty evenly.
Curious to see what the economy looks like ultimate-wise, to see how they can work through these next few rounds. It's been really back and forth. UNLV still in a healthy place, though, because they have more than enough to get through this round and the next if things really do get away from them before they're starting to have to evaluate what they need to spend cost-wise going into this. You do have the lockdown available, at least. That's very, very powerful. Area denial, especially if you're going to see potentially a rush coming in from UNLV, it's been a little hit or miss. They've found themselves on some occasions being very rush heavy, and then others where they kind of lay weight and allow Boise State to play forward. Oh, are you going to get out of that? Oh no, that was a last moment decision where you're like, I probably should have left. I didn't leave. I think I'm okay. Nope, I'm going to leave, and then die.
You could like see the thought process happening there. It's like, am I safe in this corner? No, I don't think I'm safe in this corner. And then they try to move and get in anyway. It looks like that's the lockdown coming out. It's positioned between points A and B. That is full coverage on A and covering 2 sightlines on B.
Let's see. Low health. Onto Damio. Oh, they get a flanking maneuver. They get 2 and can't find the third.
Pretty big.
Alden makes it so close. But with 30 HP in a dream. It's an opportunity here to come back into this. Cover going out. Paranoia available. Sorry for the bait. Gotta love those communication comms in the bottom left. And now, oh, they're both waiting. Oh, that's such a tragic moment, but it's okay. You're going to have, again, UNLV managing to get to the double digits. They still have a few more rounds to go ahead of them. Boise State, they're going to look to force by here. I think they might. It's a tough call. It really is, because if you force by here, you're already at the disadvantage. So you're going to guarantee that UNLV has 11. And then if you come back and fight at 12, then you're looking for a match point at the deficit. This is such a rock and a hard place decision, and you're going to allow both Ruriana and also Alden to utilize most likely their ultimates here, which is why they're not investing in this heavy weaponry.
Ooh, somebody was blinded there. We hear that. That might be a good omen for Boise State here. 8-10 as we kind of approach match point for UNLV. It looks like J-Bag's doing some searching around point A, not able to find anybody just yet. Looks like they're not on point C either.
Oh no!
Rihanna found him.
Rihanna doesn't take the shot. They go for a swivel. They actually second guess that corner peek too. Joe Schmo almost allowing it to get away from them.
Daimyo kind of trying to even things out.
The question is, are they going to just opt to give this away to keep the weaponry, or are they going to try and gain more? A couple of shots come in. Skies goes for the dash positioning. Up top, they recognize that they heard the updraft. And now we do find ourselves at 2 rounds away for UNLV to get this victory. And Boise State, with that partial force buy, puts them in a very precarious position. Do they now opt to not really spend too much, go for a final last-ditch effort? Or do they go for another micro play like they did? Oh, that's so devastating. That shot. Oh, it was so close.
Checked their corners. And so they were able to find Rihanna out before the fight truly began.
Well, they did have enough to buy. Okay, so they are going to go heavy in this. They did save enough in the previous round to go for this. All right. So
I mean, they have to go heavy.
Boise State.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure if they were going to have enough out of that previous one and what they opted to do, but I guess they were able to give just enough with it. Bot is up. Rolling Thunder out. UNLV is going to have the advantage onto Boise State for the moment. Header gets the pickup. Rihanna is down. 4 versus 5. Another blind onto Damio. Playing the corner. Smoke is active. Wallbangs come through. Aldum gets one of the crossfire, though. Beautiful pick for 2.
Ooh.
Boise State able to take the advantage for now, but it's slowly equalized.
2-on-2. One of the entrances is smoked out. It looks like Boise State is trying to approach as the smoke goes down. We see, I believe that was both of the Seekers destroyed
Double
there.
Seeker.
So we know somebody is around that corner. Oh, now they know?
Goes out. Looking to top up with the healing, giving some extra necessary support.
Blinded.
Guiding Light playing the corner, doesn't get it. There's the double nanos, and it's going to bring down Damio.
Just got a touch too aggressive. The doubles nanos were able to punish that. This is 1v2, and Aldim's like on 33 HP, but they can't give up and they can't lose this. Boise State's going to lose that round, sending us 8-12.
Oh, that was so close. The double nano just did so much damage despite the healing. Well-rounded play from the Sky to get them at 100%, but when they overlap like that, and if they time that, there's no way you're getting out of it. You can see it right here. Beautiful play onto denying the guiding light, so you had visibility, but that health is disintegrated standing in between those two.
And it's like, at that point, if you're Daimyo, you either choose to walk forward onto the point or try to back out, but you don't really have enough time to do either because they were placed so perfectly that Daimyo was already in the middle by the time they were on the ground.
And now, for the final moments potentially for Boise State, UNLV is going to play the long game. I do not see them playing aggressively here because plays like this is a close corner shotgun play. Seeing if anyone's going to walk into it, and UNLV buying their time. They know it. They have the advantage. They have the economy. They have no need to play overly aggressive here. Seeing if anybody from Boise State's going to take just one step out of line.
Daimyo's just waiting with that smoke.
That's
Boise
great,
State
though.
up 1. Aldim going to take out Jin, and then we see the Omen ultimate come out. It's kind of concealing positions for the time being. J-Bag, blinded, stunned, can't play the game. It looks like Aldim can't either. They're going to go ahead and take down Header as J-Bag. Aldim got the triple kill before going down. That might mean that Boise State can win this round. Don't want to jinx it. But especially as the lockdown goes down, we hear the spike plant. We're now entering the post-plant phase.
From the shot. Oh, what a close play. That's what Skies is going to bring to this. Judge coming in. Shutting down in close proximity. I love that type of play. And again, it's such a high risk, high reward, but in this one, that is currency
Rewarded.
well spent. And it gives Boise State another lifeline.
All right, so how's UNLV doing right now in terms of eco?
I mean, they're still doing okay. They just need to not get rattled by this. They need to keep their composition right now and allow themselves to not waver away from composure. Boise State definitely gets a revitalized morale here, though.
Okay.
That's one of those games where you're looking at each other and you're like, let's go, let's go, and they're doing it.
UNLV just kind of needs to shake it off, and Boise State just got the round that they needed to really be in this. Ooh, we see the Jet ultimate committed. Boise State means business as we kind of approach up through that high ground.
Sky's gonna get something out of this. It's so aggressive, but it's something that UNLV might not expect. Goes in for the smoke, plays forward, eluding through it. They know now. Flash comes in, blinded, gets shut down in the chaos. UNLV has the advantage in numbers.
There are the
There is
knives.
some recovery with Skies finding a multi-kill. Can they dash reset? They get close with the shorty. And get the second as well. Clutch comes in. What a play by Skies.
Fantastic job. High risk, high reward. Skies is coming in clutch. Now is the time where Boise State needs it most. And we saw it with the shotgun. We saw it with the shorty. And now with the jet knives. Just got the perfect flank. They didn't even look until the very end. And by that time, it was already too late. Skies was already in on you on top of that box, getting the clutch.
What a turnaround. Now you've rattled UNLV. Now you've rattled them. You put salt in the wound. They still have more than enough economy. It's not going to matter when it comes to weaponry. But now you're trying to play into the mental.
They're winning the mental
down
game.
2. You're still down 2. So you're playing up a hill. But you at least have some treads on those tires. It's so scary right now. Boise State does not want to let this go. They have latched on for life. Trailblazer is taken down. Guiding Light hesitates, doesn't commit it, continues to play into this with the smoke, communicate it amongst the team. Or are they going to walk into it? No, they're not. And Skies is going to look for this lurk.
See the nano down on the ground. Able to get a little bit of value around that corner, but as well as Rihanna getting hit by that Rolling Thunder there. We see Aldim going to take out Jin. That is Boise State up 1. Up 2?
They're
Are we going to do it
playing
for
on
the
logs.
third
They've
round in
got
a
the
row?
high ground. 3
for 3, but now UNLV is at the deficit. All of them again takes down another. They've been pincered onto this. They're collapsing around. If they swing, they get the 2-piece, and they get another round again.
Didn't even turn for all
round
them.
away to bring it into overtime and now make this a lot closer of a game than I think we would have anticipated.
You know, that air horn feels particularly appropriate for Boise State right now. Boise State is riding the high of taking these impossible rounds right now. Boise State, I think, is winning the mental game right now. Down 1 round, but winning the mental game, honestly, it's enabled them to take these past 3, and I think Boise State now, we've full-bought weapons, we've full-bought armor. Boise State is in this.
You almost see UNLV kind of sitting back in their chairs 3 rounds ago, and now they're kind of kicking themselves.
Definitely.
Still are on a match point. Oh, what a dash to get out!
Ooh.
Now with the smoke up by the window. Oh,
Both
3 of
smokes.
them actually to completely deny vision. They fall back. Boise State recovers, but Joe Schmo gets the first.
Joe Schmo's got the better gunplay there, going to take out Aldim, leaving Boise State down 1 for the first time in a couple of rounds here. Ooh, now down 2. It's
the lockdown. That's even more challenging to work through. It's going to buy so much time for them because now it's going to force Boise State to have to rush in 3 to 4.
It looks like they're doing that.
Early. Taking the chip damage here.
A little bit of HP. Skies wants to get in there.
Collapsing. No! Joe Schmo gets the triple play, quad in total. That's going to be such a worthwhile attempt, though, by Boise State. I have to give them tremendous credit despite UNLV taking that win.
Definitely. If Boise State was not in the position of, you know, having to play perfect or else they would lose, I think that would have been a little bit different. Boise State really came alive those past couple of rounds, and I mean, overall, we're really proud of them in that best of 1. And Boise State Esports is always looking for talented players, production, and broadcasters. Top talent, along with good grades and eligibility, can earn scholarships as well. Sign up today by visiting boisestate.edu/esports for more information. That game started out looking like it was going to be close, even though Boise State was kind of down a couple of rounds consistently. And then Boise State was able to kind of get even there several times, or at least close to even. And then we kind of, I almost want to say we let ourselves resign to the fact that we were like, Boise State is going to lose this. It's whatever. And then Boise State came in and took round after impossible round against UNLV and ended up just barely losing out in activation week. I think if Boise State and UNLV play again, I think it's a different story.
Yeah, and it's that's why you can never underestimate some of the plays that come through from these individuals, where there's just some miraculous turnarounds from both sides, really. Joe Schmo had a massive amount of plays. Same thing, though, when it comes to Skies. We also had Rihanna get some major value when it came to a lot of those lurking or backline plays, despite them being that sentinel who has a lot of that backline coverage and denying of lurks. So all in all, well-rounded play and just consistency in not ever giving up in that aspect of it. Like, you can't. In games like this is a perfect example of showing why you just don't let the mental get to you and you just play your game. And that's what we talked about at the top of the broadcast for this, where you just allow yourself to eliminate the factors outside of it and you play the best that you can. And it's matches like that and round after round that this really could have gone a very different direction.
Yeah, and it all circles back to the whole mental game that we initially opened up with. I think that was the strongest for Boise State here tonight, and we're very proud of that. Do you have any final thoughts or any particular players that you'd like to highlight?
I mean, highlight for sure, Sky is coming in. Rihanna was also a major factor when it comes to looking at a lot of the play between everybody being able to find their niche value brought overall. And just Boise State needing to just touch up and refine those key things here and there, because they're already showing that they have the capability of taking out clutch moments or come back from a deficit. They can do that. They really can. It's just now when it comes to more intense aspects later on in the tournament in and of itself and other tournaments with this Valorant squad specifically, they just have to make sure that they have all their T's crossed and their I's dotted.
Definitely. And with that, we're going to transition into our top 5, and top 5 plays are presented by the Idaho Army National Guard, who invites you to take your impressive critical thinking skills into real time. With more than 10 jobs offering a $20,000 bonus and your degree of choice paid for, the Idaho Army National Guard is the best team out there. From all of us here at Boise State, thanks for joining us, including you, Rick Rad. It was an awesome time to broadcast with you, and enjoy these top 5 plays. And then now we switch over to Daimyo, back to J-Bag, going in through building. Remaining room?
They have to try and find them. They know that the plant is down. They just have to get some intel. There is a couple of shots trading out. They collapse onto this.
Approach match point for UNLV. It looks like J-Bag's doing some searching around point A, not able to find anybody just yet. Looks like they're not on point C either.
Oh no!
Brianna found him.
Brianna doesn't take the shot. They go for a swivel. They actually second guess that.
We see, I believe that was both of the Seekers destroyed there, so we know somebody is around that corner. Oh, now they know?
Goes out. Top up with the healing, giving some extra necessary support.
Blinded.
Guiding Light playing the corner, doesn't get it. There's the double nanos, and it's gonna bring down just enough. Bot is up, Rolling Thunder out. UNLV is gonna have the advantage onto Boise State for the moment. Header gets the pickup. Brianna is down 4 versus 5. Another blind onto Damio playing the corner. Smoke is active. Wallbangs come through. Alden gets one of the crossfire though. Beautiful pick for 2.
Ooh.
Boise State able to. That just passed by. Already learned that there is a piece of crown control. Denied.
Ooh, somebody got one.
Blinds. What a
Active.
stellar play in the chaos of the